Hello, everyone. My name is Carl Wallen. As you can see, I'm an ex-gamer. That's why I got this headset here. I'm currently living in Daegu, South Korea, working with special needs kids at a university here. And I started a blog a while ago, actually at the beginning of my trip, kind of detailing what I was doing day to day. And over time, that blog transformed into more of a spiritual blog, talking about my relationship with God and how it's grown since I've been here, and um, I guess just stuff that I find interesting. So what I'm doing again now is transforming that blog into actually a vlog. This is my first one here. Bear with me. It's probably going to be a bit hiccupy. I'm not into production or editing or anything like that, so it's just probably going to be me talking, maybe some music every once in a while. But for the most part, that's what to expect. My blog posts were getting rather long, and I started kind of dreading typing that much. It was an hour and a half to 2 hours of actual typing every time I did it, so posts started to get fewer and fewer in between, and that's kind of what ended up happening. So now I've decided that I'm going to do vlogs, which are easier to talk and probably take a lot less time to do. Today's topic is G12 Korea. I went to G12 last weekend in Seoul. It's actually Ilsan, which is a suburb of Seoul, at the Kintex, which is a giant, well, it stands for Korea International Exhibit, or Exhibition. So, there's a bunch of different halls, and some of them are connected, and so I went there, and somebody had told me that there would be 1 million people there, and so I was like, wow, this thing's gonna be huge. What kind of stadium are they selling out? But it ended up being probably maybe a couple thousand at most. Um, maybe 5 to 10. So, first of all, expectations were a little bit strange. And I also had kind of a misconception that this would be a lot of different churches over the course, or globally, all kind of satelliting in for one big worship. And so I was thinking, oh, this is kind of like a global church thing, and they want people to join, etc. But really, what it was different pastors from over the world came in and talked about things. So it ended up being an interesting weekend. Personally, I didn't like it all that much. I think there were some things that were severely wrong with it. But I did get there halfway through, so it's possible that some of the stuff that I missed addressed the things that I had issues with. But anyways, nevertheless, let's get into it. The three messages that I heard were grow the church, be a good disciple, which kind of the underlying message there was, be loyal to your pastor or whoever the spiritual authority is in your life, be loyal to them. And number 3 was prosperity gospel. The very first sermon that I heard while I was there was basically just be a good disciple. And it was the pastor was talking about how he was a disciple for the main pastor who started this entire thing, Cesar Castellanos. And he said, oh, he made me a disciple and I became like family with him and blah, blah, blah. And in and of itself, of course, that's not a bad thing. The Great Commission is to go out and to make disciples. However, the way they want to do it is kind of not teaching from the Bible itself. They just want people to go out and just Bible thump on the corners. And while, of course, we want the church to grow, that's truly a result of people going out and loving one another and teaching about Christ instead of just focusing on numbers. So I think it's a tad bit misled in that regard. And of course, as I mentioned, the prosperity gospel was basically motivational speeches for people to donate when they were taking up a collection. So there would be a priest or a pastor who would get up there and he would start saying, oh, does God hate rich people? That was actually one of the sermons. Does God hate rich people? No, he doesn't. Does God hate money? No, that's a misconception. He doesn't hate money. Money can be used for good. There's good money and bad money, and if you donate, God will give you more money and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I was just shaking my head at what I was hearing and kind of sad. But all these people were going crazy for it, which kind of over the weekend started me thinking about, what do we need to do about this? Like, there needs to be truth in the church. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and we basically just talked about, what the greatest enemy of Christianity will be going forward. And, I was on a little bit of a, um, idea that, Muslim was scared. I actually had a dream that, there was a big monster and stuff. That's on my blog if you want to go read it. But anyways, I was like, oh, is this Islam or is this ISIS? And he pointed out that it was probably the church, actually, which was very interesting. And I was like, you know what, you're right. The church itself can be very scary, especially with this push to be more of a global church. And now that we have the technology to have everybody together, everybody wants to, make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And you have pastors speaking for 50, 60,000 people. You have churches in Seoul that are almost 1 million people in membership. And it's like we're completely missing the whole point that Christ came here for. The fact that you have love and community, and that can only be had in smaller groups. My personal belief is that we were meant to have house churches or home churches. That's how Christ set up the church, and I think that if you just go out and start inviting people into your home, you'll be surprised at what you're able to talk to them about and how many hearts you're able to reach. And obviously it's God reaching them, not us, but we have to go do the work. So anyways, that's a short tangent off to the side of, what I was speaking about, prosperity gospel, and the fact here that everybody wants bigger and bigger and bigger. And I've noticed that in Korea, pastors they're almost like celebrities. And it's not the best thing, of course. Certainly, pastor can help guide your life, and you would expect him to be a man of integrity and learning. But they're still men; they're infallible, or they're fallible. And I don't know. Anyways. So I was talking to my friend, and sorry, I'm all over the place here. And he had once had a vision that it was his job, from God to bring truth to the church. And I started thinking the same way. So I contacted him and I was like, hey, what do we do about this? And he reminded me that, it's God's vision for the church that matters, not ours. It shouldn't be what I want the church to like. It should be what God wants the church to like. So definitely learning patience and love in that regard. I think that regardless of what movements are going on around the world, God will still use it to his glory. And, well, I think it helped me as well, because I came home and I realized that I didn't want this weekend to go to waste. I wanted to make a change in my life for the better. I had been struggling the past few weeks with my faith and just kind of being busy and just floating off in a bunch of different directions, thinking about one thing or the other, and not focusing solely on God, which I have made the main point in my life and my desire here. And so I started thinking, okay, what can I do to be more like Christ? What can I do to not let this weekend be wasted and make a change? And I've decided to start giving free English lessons. While that's not necessarily all that righteous, I'm hoping that what it can do is create somewhat of a icebreaker as far as my ministry. Like most people, the first thing they would ask is, why are you giving free English lessons? You can make a lot of money doing this. And be like, well, God. I believe in God. Christ never charged for his teaching, and so why should I? Obviously I'm not going around and being a disciple and expecting other people to, not even expecting, but just living off of other people's generosity, which isn't a bad thing. I think, a worker is worth his wages, of course, but um, it's tough to trust God to that degree, and I've tried to, and I think it's definitely possible. But also, things change as you start to look forward and think whether you or not you want a family with them. You got to decide that um, you have to take care of them financially as well, and it's not necessarily that I'm close to that by any means, but I want one in the future. So um, I'll definitely have a job on the side that will support me, but I would like to start my ministry with free English lessons. So that was kind of my takeaway from this whole thing, what I'm going to start doing, and actually being active in my ministry. Whereas I think before I haven't been as outspoken as I need to be. So that's where I stand right now. That's my take on G12 Korea. In and of itself, had some good messages, but in the end, I feel misguided and uninformed. The biggest thing is that there was almost no teaching from the Bible. There was an American pastor who went last, and I thought that he was lost for most of his sermon, and then at the end actually started coming back and stating some good things. That it's not about what title you have in the church. It's not about being in power of other people. It's about love, and it's about reaching out to other people. It's about people. And I agreed with this, but I think it was a little bit too little too late, and just unfortunately not enough teaching going on and arming disciples with what they're supposed to be. Everybody wants to go out and disciple. It's very, very clear in the Bible. That's the Great Commission. But how to do it is the tough thing. And not that I have all the answers myself, but like I said, I believe smaller groups are the easier way to do it. I should mention that G12, the entire point, or the idea is that you disciple to 12 other people, and you make your own small group, and that's how the church grows, is 12 by 12. You equip them to be leaders in the church, and they go out and recruit 12 more, and so your 12 turns into 144, which turns into whatever the multiplicative of 12 is for that. And that's how you grow the church. And while it sounds good, it shouldn't be about numbers. It should be about soul membership in the church. So anyways, those are my thoughts. Going forward, I think I'm going to do a lot more videos instead of typing on my blog. As I upload this, I'm going to put a link to my blog if you feel like reading all the the background on me being here and what I've been doing and all that fun stuff. But yeah, that's about it. I'm Carl signing off, and thanks for watching.